We on Fire Sports Podcast, The Spot, season number 4, episode number 24. And I hope you guys had a good weekend. First of all, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. If your first time listening, I appreciate the check-in. If you're OG of the show, welcome back once again to The Spot. And hope you guys had a great weekend, man. We had a great weekend across the sporting landscape, especially in the National Football League, as we had the NFC and the AFC championship games. And the Super Bowl is set. You know we're going to get into that, as we had the Kansas City Chiefs back to another Super Bowl, man. As the Chiefs, they're gearing up for possibly a three-peat for the Super Bowl. It's the first time that we've potentially may have a three-peat Super Bowl champion. Now, we've had, say, a team win an NFL championship 3 in a row, and that's to the Green Bay Packers back in the 1960s before it officially became the Super Bowl. I think they played in Super Bowl 1, if I'm not mistaken, Super Bowl 2. But we got it set, man. As the Chiefs, they was able to knock off the Buffalo Bills 32-29 in an epic game. Man, those who checked in with the show, you know, I thought I had an upset special with the Buffalo Bills going in the Arrowhead and knocking off the Kansas City Chiefs. And I was off on that one, but the Buffalo Bills, they had every chance to win the football game. You know, 3 minutes left, couple timeouts, had a chance to go drive down the field and get a touchdown to win the game. And the Buffalo Bills fell up short. So congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs making another Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, Chris Jones and company. You know, congratulations to them. And on the NFC side, we had the Washington Commanders taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. And man, to quote the great trainer, man, from Rocky number 4, when Apollo Creed took on Drago, throw the towel. Throw the towel. This thing got ugly. I mean, it got ugly, especially in the second half, as the Philadelphia Eagles was able to win this football game 55-23 as they move on to the Super Bowl, as well as the second Super Bowl appearance in the last 3 seasons. And yeah, last time they got to the Super Bowl, they took on the Kansas City Chiefs in an epic Super Bowl game. So we're definitely going to have plenty of coverage on the Super Bowl coming up, man, as that tilt kicks off on February 9th. I can't wait down in New Orleans. And we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, we got plenty of time for that one, man. I'm definitely going to break down, you know, my thoughts, you know, across that matchup in the Super Bowl. Also, across the National Football League, we've had a little movement as far as coaches is concerned. And we got Pete Carroll, man, back in the fold. How about the Las Vegas Raiders as the next head football coach of the Raiders? Pete Carroll is the oldest coach in the history of the National Football League. And this guy has a young soul, man. Last time we seen Pete, you know, he was obviously out there in Seattle with the Seattle Seahawks, Legion of Boom and Russell Wilson. You know, they was able to win a Super Bowl championship. They was basically half a yard from repeating the Super Bowl champions, fell up short against the New England Patriots. And yeah, the reason I mentioned the New England Patriots is because we got Tom Brady in the fold out there in Las Vegas for the Raiders. And you know, I think they just want to pivot to a more veteran coach. We had Antonio Pierce. You know, his experiment out there in Las Vegas was an epic crash and burn. And I think that the Raiders, I think it was in their best interest to bring in a coach that has coached before. I just think that at the end of the day, a lot of people, you know, have certain remarks about Pete that he's super old and all that. Man, Pete is a young soul. I mean, this is a guy that not only won a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, but you know, he's the head coach of USC with Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and company, winning, you know, a couple national championships out there in Los Angeles. So I actually like the hire. And there's a lot of people that don't like the hire. I actually like the hire. And the reason why I think that the Raiders just need a little bit more stability out there, man, a guy that has been to the mountaintop before, a guy that knows what he's doing. I think that the Raiders, they have a mountain to climb, though. And I think one of the first things with them is that, the Raiders, they need a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. And at the end of the day, when you don't have a quarterback, it's an uphill climb. I think they do have a couple pieces out there. Max Crosby comes to mind, great defensive end for them. He's been putting in work the last couple of seasons. So we'll see what it do, man, out there in Las Vegas for the Raiders, man, as they pivot to Pete Carroll. Also, too, we had the Jacksonville Jaguars. They finally made a head coaching hiring, bringing in Liam Cohen. Cohen was the former offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He did a good job with Baker Mayfield down there in Tampa. And, I think that, for him, he's probably the coach that is, not the marquee name. So we'll see what he do. I mean, he did an outstanding job with the offense down there in Tampa, man. So Jacksonville hoping that, he can bring Trevor Lawrence up to speed. I think at the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence got that big bag of money, over $200 million. He's the first pick in the NFL draft coming out of Clemson, winning the national championship. And it's been up and down for Trevor Lawrence. Last season, he got hurt towards the end of the season, with that Bush League hit that he took, trying to take a slide, effectively ended his season. But he was nicked up even coming into that game. In Jacksonville, they was a crash and burn. So that's definitely, in my opinion, one of the toughest jobs in the National Football League. So we'll see, what they do down there in Jacksonville. Also, too, we got breaking news, man. And for you guys who listened to the last episode, I had a few words about Jimmy Diva Butler. And I have a few more words for Jimmy Diva Butler, as the Miami Heat has suspended him indefinitely, as Jimmy doing Jimmy things. Was informed when he got to practice that, hey, you won't be starting your first game back. And Jimmy just effectively walked out. And he walked out of practice, walked out on the players, walked out on the organization. And here's my thing. You can be mad at Pat Riley and Mickey Arison, the owner, all you want. No problem with that at all. But there's a player's code out here. And part of that player's code is that, bro, we'll rock with you. If you're trying to get a few extra coins, God bless you, man. I don't think no player would just kind of frown their nose at a dude trying to get a couple extra coins, because they trying to get a couple extra coins. But at the end of the day, when you walk out on your teammates, man. You're a professional. You got a job to do. As I mentioned last episode, man, there's a lot of people out here that is hurting, financially, man, and people just trying to put food on the table. And at the end of the day, when you have an athlete that has an opt-in for $52 million for next season, made $49 million this season, you wonder why the NBA is having an issue with ratings. And this is the exact reason why. Imagine, we talked about the National Football League a little earlier. Imagine Patrick Mahomes walking out on the Chiefs over a contract dispute, just straight walking out. Imagine any, marquee NFL player taking that same position. Now, we had a lot of, heat on A.J. Brown because, A.J. Brown was mad with the Philadelphia Eagles. He wasn't getting the ball. He read a book on the sideline and kept it moving. At the end of the day, the man went out there and played football for his organization, and he didn't let his teammates down. So I think just at the end of the day, Jimmy Butler, man, we rock with you. Again, my Chicago Bulls drafted you out of Marquette. You made yourself into an NBA player. You made yourself into a superstar. But at the end of the day, man, I can't rock with this. I can't rock with this at all. You're not the first player, dude, that wanted out of an organization. But at the end of the day, most of them man up and play basketball until that situation got over and done with. Also, too, NBA players have agents. And the job of the agent is giving you the best advice that they can possibly have. And more often than not, that advice is, man, just shut up and hoop, dude, and let me just kind of handle the behind the scenes type of situation, man. So this is definitely not a good look for Jimmy Butler. I'll double down again. If I'm a team that, has any faint of interest in bringing them in, I'm not interested, man. We sending Miami Heat straight to voicemail. So this is a saga that has grown by the day. I am not surprised at all. I anticipated this whole situation happening last year when Pat Riley made the comments, when they were, in the playoffs and they got, ousted out of the playoffs and Jimmy Butler didn't play a game for them in the playoffs. Talking about, hey, this is what we would have did if I would have played. At the end of the day, Riley's old school, dude. And so, that's just not the right move for the organization that you're currently playing for. So we'll definitely get into that situation as it unfolds a little bit more. And also too, man, I can't forget. Speaking of diva players, I'm going to come at you guys with a guy that was not a diva player. A guy that is a legend across all, not only the NBA, but all sports. Just a guy that brought the lunch pail every single day, every single night, whether it be in practice, whether it be actually in the games, and just that mentality. And I'm talking about that Mamba mentality. Yeah, man, we've approached the 5-year anniversary of the unfortunate death of Kobe Bryant. He's a guy that, I followed in high school. We're the same age. So, he's a guy that, we kind of seen just from a high school level back in the mid-90s. Put his name in the NBA draft, skipped the whole college thing, went on with the Los Angeles Lakers. And so coming up, man, a little bit later on in the show, man, is just my piece to Kobe Bryant, man, and just his family and just what he's meant to the game of basketball, man, to not only Laker Nation, but basketball fans all over the world, man. So once again, man, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. Coming up the rest of the show, We on Fire Sports Podcast, The Spot. Welcome back. And yeah, we gonna get into the NFL, man, the championship games, NFC and the AFC. And I'm gonna start first on the NFC side, man, as we had the Washington Commanders traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles trying to get back to the Super Bowl, second time in 3 years, and the Washington Commanders was the Cinderella story of the year. Jaden Daniels had an outstanding rookie season, one of the best rookie seasons I've seen in a long time, maybe the best rookie season ever. And I knew coming into this game that Washington had an uphill climb. And part of that uphill climb is that Philadelphia Eagles, man, they stout. First on the defensive end, and I don't think their defense get enough credit. Because they was the number one unit in the NFL during this season, and I knew they was going to come to play, especially that defensive line. And I thought that they were going to make, Jaden Daniels have to make a couple throws in this football game. And, coming in, starting off in the game, the Washington Commanders came down the field, and it looked like it was Jaden Daniels again. They going for it a couple times, had a couple conversions on fourth down, ended up into a field goal. And I'm like, man, okay, that's cool and all, but you got to be able to stop the Philadelphia Eagles. And if there was one thing about the Washington Commanders just this season, I just didn't think that their defense was up to snuff. If you go back to last season, man, this was one of the worst defensive units across the National Football League, especially in the secondary. I thought their defensive front was pretty good, but I just thought on the back end, man, for them is that it was a struggle bus in the secondary. They did a little bit better this season, obviously bringing in Dan Quinn. He's a defensive guy. And, man, I think Saquon Barkley, man, he reminded me of like a Major League Baseball player, man, in a Major League playoff game. To where he came up the bat, one pitch, pow, big, huge touchdown, set the table for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I knew just like that this game was over because they couldn't stop the run, man, and I knew at the end of the day that just made life comfortable for Jalen Hurts. You got Devontae Smith. You also got A.J. Brown. These are guys, especially on the back end of the Washington Commanders defense, they play a lot of man coverage. They throw a little zone in there every now and then, but at the end of the day, nobody can guard A.J. Brown one-on-one. And Devontae Smith, he's a guy kind of in that same vein, and I knew that it was tough sledding for them. And, early on, Washington got down 14-3, but they tried to pick up the pace a little bit in the second quarter. But once we got to halftime, man, and I believe it was 27-12, I knew that game was effectively over. Washington, they had a few turnovers in this football game, especially with the fumbles with Eckler and just on the kickoff. Special teams, they had a fumble. And that's all what Philadelphia needed, man. Once Washington got to turning the ball over, this thing got ugly. Saquon Barkley put him on the short field, another quick touchdown, and just like that, this thing got out of hand. Now, I'll say this, is that Philadelphia is a balanced football club. And I think the biggest question mark coming into this game for them was just the health of Jalen Hurts. I thought at the end of the day, the defense and the run game just simply makes life easy for your quarterback. And Jalen Hurts was the epitome of that. He made the necessary plays that need to be made. He ended up in this game, almost about 250 yards and a touchdown. But he was effective, and he didn't turn the football over, which, as we saw coming into just this weekend, the teams that turned the football over was at home watching the playoffs just with the rest of us. And that was the case in this football game. I thought Jaden Daniels, he played good, but we've never had a starting quarterback rookie ever get to the Super Bowl. Let me help you guys out. That number now is 0-6. We had 6 times where rookie quarterbacks came into the championship game and took an L. I think one of the ones that I remember most was, when Pittsburgh did it with Roethlisberger. Came in, got to the AFC Championship game, and, they fell on the sword. But, obviously, Pittsburgh was able to pick up the pieces shortly thereafter and win a Super Bowl with Ben Roethlisberger. And so I think it'll be brighter days for the Washington Commanders coming up next season. I thought that Dan Quinn and company, man, they had an outstanding year. I think that at the end of the day, they just played a ball club that was just better than them on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And that's why we saw this thing get out of hand with the Philadelphia Eagles putting up the hot 55 piece. I can't remember. I don't even think there's ever been a time where a team has put up a 55 piece in a conference championship game. And the Eagles and Nick Sirianni, they mosey on along into the Super Bowl. There's been a lot of criticism on Nick Sirianni during this season, even going back to last season. And I was one, especially if you're OG of the show, I had faith in the Philadelphia Eagles last season, but the bottom fell out. I think they didn't forget that. And now they're 2-stepping their way down to New Orleans, man, to play in the Super Bowl coming up. And I can't forget about the AFC side, man. And this was a game, man, get your popcorn ready. It was get your popcorn ready. The Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. As we all know, man, the Buffalo Bills, they knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs earlier this season. Josh Allen, I already nominated him for, NFL MVP this year. And yeah, I got a little source also too on that note, is that it appears that Josh Allen has won the NFL MVP award. And yeah, I got a pretty reputable source, in regards to that situation. It looks like he will win the MVP award. And I thought coming into this football game, he had to be the best version of himself. He had to put on the cape. And I think overall, Josh Allen had a good football game, man. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns in this football game, over 200-plus yards passing. But I thought that, to me, the thing coming into this football game was really 2 things. One of those things was that James Cook had to be that guy. And he had 2 touchdowns in this football game, but he only had 13 carries. And I thought that he was a guy that if you give him 20-plus carries, I thought that was enough for the time of possession to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. I thought that the Buffalo Bills, especially in the second half, in my opinion, they really didn't go to James Cook as they should have. We obviously had a couple situations with one, the Chiefs being able to stop the Buffalo Bills in those short situations. I call them those Tim Tebow specials. They was able to stop, the Buffalo Bills in that situation. I thought that it changed the momentum of the football game. Also, you had a couple controversial calls, man. Just, a lot of people just feel like the Chiefs, man, get the benefit of the whistle. And at the end of the day, man, when you trying to knock off the champ, man, it's just like boxing. You're not getting the decision on the champ. You got to knock the champ out. And I never forget, when the Bills had the football, I looked at the clock. We had 3 minutes and 33 seconds left. And they had 2 timeouts. And all they had to do was drive down the football field and score a touchdown, and they was able to knock off the champs. But I'm going to send a shout out, man, to Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, this guy's a blitz master, man, bringing in that blitz corner, man. And, we had the situation with Josh Allen, trying to put on the cape, man, escape the rush, got the football down the field, man. And Kincaid, he just was not able to bring that football in. You got to make that catch, man, if you're trying to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs and Arrowhead. They fell up short in that situation. And, the Buffalo Bills, came this close from getting back to the Super Bowl. It would have been their first time since the Jim Kelly and, the Thurman Thomas days. Great defense with Bruce Smith. And, I feel bad for Bills Mafia, man. It's a passionate fan base. I mean, they was just licking at the chops to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs again for the second time this season. But they fell up short as the Chiefs was able to win this football game 32-29. Patrick Mahomes, a lot of people say that Patrick Mahomes is the greatest NFL quarterback of all time. And I'm going to quote my man Lee Corso, man. Not so fast, my friend. I think that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback to ever play the position. And what I mean by that is by legacy. Because we've seen other quarterbacks with better arms. Dan Marino comes to mind. I can name you a whole bunch of quarterbacks who probably, at the end of the day, throw a better football than both of these guys, Mahomes as well as Brady. But, man, when you talking about a guy that played in the National Football League up to 45 years old, let that soak in for a second. This guy was an NFL player at 45 years old. He obviously won 6 championships in New England. Him and Bill Belichick. He moved down to Tampa. First season down in Tampa, he was able to win a Super Bowl. And if my memory serves me correct, who did they play in that Super Bowl? And who's the quarterback in that Super Bowl? I'll help you out. That was the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Brady has never lost to Patrick Mahomes when they faced off in a playoff situation. So at the end of the day, man, I'm all about matchups. Meaning that if I get a chance to match up against you and I beat you head to head, one in the AFC Championship game when he was in New England, another one in the Super Bowl, what are we talking about here, people? And that's no disrespect to Patrick Mahomes. I think he has the chance to be the greatest quarterback of all time. I do think that, if he wins, this Super Bowl coming up in three-peat, I still believe he got a little work to do. Because the NFL is a violent sport, meaning that I've seen a lot of NFL players hit the zenith once they're in the 20s. They get an injury or something and they're never the same. So I'm going to wait on that just a little bit. Also, too, man, shout out, man, to Andy Reid. He's done an outstanding job with this organization. When he got to Kansas City, they was coming off a 2-14 season after he got the boot out in Philadelphia. So he get a chance to match up with his old team once again, man, in the Super Bowl, man. I can't wait. I can't wait for that. I'm going to have a couple special guests fall through, man, to preview the Super Bowl matchup coming up in a couple weeks. Also, too, man, I got a little bone to pick just a little bit before I get out of here, man. And my bone to pick is with Chris Mad Dog Russo. Now, Mad Dog, man, I got a lot of love for you, man. I listen to your show all the time, man, on Sirius XM Radio. And, I rock with you, Mad Dog, all day long, man. I remember you back in the day. You've been holding it down for a minute. You do great work without question. But I hear you on the radio saying, man, that this is a dud Super Bowl and it's just not appealing. What are we talking about, man? This is the second time that these two teams will match up within the last 3 years. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team. If you're going to pick a team to be able to match up with the Kansas City Chiefs, man, and have the ability to knock them off. And so what are we talking about here? Now, I know, you may be upset that the Bills, they fell up short and all of that. But at the end of the day, man, I think that these are the best two teams in the National Football League. And I think they match up in the Super Bowl for an epic matchup. We'll see what that thing do. So, first of all, man, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate you. Yeah. We on Fire Sports Podcast. The Spot. Man, before we get out of here, I definitely got to send a tribute, man, to Kobe Bryant. Now, 5 years ago, man, Kobe Bryant passed away in a helicopter accident. Him and his daughter, as well as other parents and other young children, on their way to a basketball game. I mean, it was beyond a tragic, situation just all the way around. I remember, when I, got the breaking news, I actually was just kind of browsing around the internet, doing a little research and things like that for actually this show. And it was at the kind of the beginning stages of just this show in itself. Just kind of trying to put things together, man, just to come out and just spit, hot fire to you guys, man. And while I was doing my research, man, it just popped across. And I just sat still for a moment because I could not believe what I was reading. And I checked a couple sources just to kind of verify it, man. I was heartbroken with the rest of you guys. Kobe Bryant played 20 years in the National Basketball Association for the Los Angeles Lakers. There's only been a handful of players overall that has played that many years consecutive with the same organization. Dirk Nowitzki comes to mind with the Dallas Mavericks a couple years ago when he retired. And it's a situation with Kobe, man. It goes through a lot of stages with Kobe. I remember when Kobe Bryant was in high school and just hearing about him. I was in high school at the same time. I'm the same age as Kobe Bryant, was playing high school basketball at the same time. And I didn't know that he was going to become a cultural phenomenon as he did. Now, I'm old enough to remember, just his dad playing in the NBA for the Philadelphia 76ers, Joe Jellybean Bryant, and Joe passed away about a year or so ago. And that was heartbreaking just to, hear that news. But, Kobe, when he came into the league, went straight from high school, straight to the NBA. And, didn't jump off just as quickly as those may have thought. He was on a stacked team with Shaquille O'Neal and Eddie Jones. And, he averaged about 7 points a game, man. But he was must see. When he got in the game, man, just doing just crazy dunks and things of that particular nature. I know you guys, especially my OGs, remember the whole situation out in Utah, man, shooting the air balls in the playoff game against the Utah Jazz with Karl Malone and John Stockton, on their way to make to the NBA Finals and take on my Chicago Bulls back in 1998. And Kobe learned from that. Now, this is one of the most hard-working guys that I've ever seen in any professional sport. He didn't take, his situation for granted at all. The money didn't mean anything to Kobe Bryant. He was just a guy on a mission. And, Michael Jordan at the time, he was weaning out of the NBA in his first, incarnation of, second incarnation of retirement, with my Chicago Bulls. And Kobe wasn't scared, man, to try to climb the mountaintop, man, to try to approach Jordan type levels. And just that mentality, man, just that mama mentality, man. This man didn't back down from no challenges at all, including Michael. And one of my favorite memories of Kobe Bryant, man, is when he played in the All-Star game. Got elected as an All-Star starter up in New York. And, Kobe came to hoop. He came to hoop. And for me, he just was a polarizing guy. Helped the Los Angeles Lakers, him and Shaquille O'Neal, win 3 consecutive NBA championships in the early 2000s. And him and Shaq, they had their so-called beef, and Shaq went on to depart to the Miami Heat. Kobe stayed in Los Angeles, and it was a tough time, and a real tough time. And so, I think the Lakers, they was able to make a move. A lot of people say it was a gank move, bringing in Paul Gasol and bringing in Lamar Odom and so forth. And the Lakers got back to that championship purchase. They was able to win a couple championships, after Shaq. And I never forget when he's playing the Orlando Magic in the NBA Finals. They had won and went up, had won their third game, and they was a game away from winning the NBA championship. And I never forget the reporter asking him, "Man, why you not excited, man?" And Kobe came with the epic quote, "Job not done." And I think that's just an epitome of just him as a guy. And it's also, too, an epitome of the legacy that he's left, which is job is not done. And that's to any professional athlete out here that, just get into, these guys making a big bag of money and guys just not wanting to play due to having a hangnail and load management and all of that. And we all wonder why the NBA ratings have went down just a little bit. And it's because guys like Kobe is not in the NBA. I'm just gonna keep it 100. Guys that would care less about how much money they making and all of that, dude. It's just all about the mission, man. So I definitely want to close it out, man, just with Kobe Bryant, man. Salute to him. And also to salute, to Vanessa and just his whole family and everything, man. And just the generation of basketball lovers across the world, man. We was all able to share the great memories of Kobe Bryant, man. And also, obviously, to the Lakers organization and their fan base that love Kobe dear and dear out. And so once again, man, I appreciate all the feedback. I appreciate your ear, man. Don't forget to check us out, man, on Twitter, man, at We On Fire Sports. We also too on YouTube at We On Fire Sports Podcast. Also too, man, check your boy out, man. And I definitely made a guest appearance on the Weekly Dog Sports Betting Podcast with Mako and my man Isalim, Mr. Taylor Street, and definitely check them boys out. Had me fall through the other day, man, just to get my little breakdown, across the sporting landscape. So definitely you guys can check that out. Once again, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. We On Fire Sports Podcast, the spot.